All right. We're making this video. It's a very important video, and we just had an epiphany. We are making a video for low information volunteers.
You want to hear that again? Low information volunteers.
Volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard about low information voters, but one of the things that is true about the CP ecosystem is that there are low information volunteers that are flooding into our system, which is a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yes, just the same way that low information voters are still voters with one vote, right? Wait, Charles, what is a low information volunteer?
Low information volunteer is somebody who is excited about working with us, and also is probably going to miss most of the content that we produce. We have a ton of robust training.
Mm-hmm.
There's a 100 series. There's a 200 series.
All recorded.
All recorded on YouTube and live. We have orientations.
Trip orientations.
Team leads that are on email. And some people are going to miss most or all of it. And we're realizing that that's just the way it goes. As we get more people who are the first time volunteers or they've been volunteering.
And they think they got it.
And they maybe they do.
Yeah.
But they haven't gone through and learned the CP way. So this video is actually not for them to watch because they're probably not going to watch it. This is for the rest of our volunteers who are medium to high information volunteers.
Informed. You're informed.
Okay. Because you're going to be volunteering with them. And we need your help. They need your help. We need your help to help the low information volunteers. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to cover 3 points that are going to help you to guide them through volunteering.
Yes. Okay.
The thing that we know about large groups especially is that the team leads cannot guide everybody on the team.
Yeah.
And so what happens with some of our best volunteers is that you coach people. That morning debrief, when there's 50, 100 people on the ground, you're going to be coaching the person next to you that's asking wild questions or saying wild things. When you're in the car with someone out in the field and they're saying like, why are we doing this? Why are we here? It's going to be you, the other volunteers that are coaching these low information volunteers.
Yeah, or at least giving them a nugget, right? Like you don't have to be a super experienced CP canvasser or volunteer to just be like, well, I heard from this video that, this is the context for the race.
Yeah.
And this is like why we're doing this. So maybe take that into account.
Yeah,
right?
or this is the way that CP does this work and they've been doing it for 7 years now. And so maybe we should listen to them. So this is to help these volunteers, but also our team leads and our system, just get them better able to help voters at doors. Okay. All right, here we go.
Okay.
So we're going to do some whiteboarding.
Yeah.
You ready?
Well, yeah. Why don't we get the board situated? But before we do that, we're going to take you through 3 points, right? And we're going to outline each one of them and how you can apply it with these low information volunteers. But at the end of the day, it's really about community, partners, and you, yourself, as a volunteer. And by the end of this session, you're going to be like, this sounds very familiar. And that's because we're a very consistent organization. You can translate these 3 things to mindset, mojo, and mobilize, actually.
That's right.
So
in this video, though, we're going to go more tactical.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the different instances where this comes into play and hopefully give you some talking points so you can share with them.
For sure. Okay, let's get into it.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Alrighty. So
This is a very nice drawing you've got here.
yeah.
This is what you drew while we were brainstorming this whole thing, right?
Yeah, this is like how I get my stress out for the season,
Okay.
This is like a mental mind map.
Okay, but we're gonna say
We're
goodbye
gonna-
to it.
Deep breath in, deep breath out.
Okay.
Your negativities are externalized,
Okay, all right,
and
all right.
like you put it on the board, and now you're saying goodbye. You're letting go. You're letting go.
Okay.
So breathe deeply
All
as
right.
you do this.
We can tell Ben is managing through a little bit of stress right now. It's fine. Okay, all right. Okay, so number 1, community.
Okay.
Top priority.
I'm only this tall.
That's fine. That's as tall as you are is as high as we need to go.
That makes sense.
Good.
Okay, community. All right. Okay, how is this wishy-washy concept actually tactical, Charles?
What is this? What is this mumbo jumbo we're talking about? All right. So community, the first part of community is like one of the easiest things to understand, and it's on the website as soon as you get there. It's got faster alone, and it's crossed out, and it's got further together instead. Really big letters, and what that is actually about the speed that we will move at. So the first sub bullet of community is that we go slow. Actually, we go slower. Slower than you're comfortable with, slower than you're used to if you're an experienced canvasser, slower than it feels like it makes sense. But we do that because we are slowing down for people who are new and who are understanding. We're slowing down for so that we can all get on the same page. We're slowing down so that we can have conversations like this on that Saturday.
Yep.
That morning Saturday is so important to getting on the same page within our group, within our team. Maybe the partner organization sends staff over to talk about where you're knocking on doors, or there's a candidate that comes and talks to us. But it feels like it takes a long time in that first day, and we intentionally go slower.
So what this looks like, right, is that you're not going to hit pavement at 9 a.m. on your first day.
Yeah.
You're not going to go straight to doors and knock out 50 doors within an hour and a half, right? You're not doing that. Because we're an organization that takes in people all across experience levels. So when you slow down, you're literally slowing down.
Yeah.
Because you're walking at the pace of the person that's learning this process for the first time.
Yeah.
And you actually want to do that. Because when you do that, when you support each other, right, you actually go further together. So this actually kind of goes up too. But the point being is that, like, when you spend time in the beginning to bring people up to speed, they actually can go as fast as you on day 2, day 3, and now you have people who are moving quickly together by the end of this. Instead of people who are moving fast, keep going to be moving fast, and people who are moving slow and continuing to move slow.
Okay, so let's talk some places about where support comes into play. So. A lot of that, like slowing down, is in the morning. Support usually happens in the morning as well. There's like breakouts sometimes.
Yeah, in the morning, but it's usually throughout the day. I would say that this happens throughout the day because the key factor here is supporting each other. One thing that will happen on trips is that we will explicitly call out who here has experience.
Yeah.
Experience in canvassing, experience in minivan, or experience with CP in general, right? And the reason why we do that is because we make it explicit that if you are experienced, you're expected to bring people who are inexperienced along. And if you are inexperienced, you're expected to ask questions when you don't understand something.
Yeah.
So it's a two-way street there. But it's also because it's also very practical too.
Sure.
If you're in a car with 3-4 other people for an entire day, you want to be able to say, hey, I need a bathroom break. You know? You want to be able to say, hey, I would like to have lunch sometime soon. I'm getting really hungry.
Yeah.
And you would like to be able to say, hey, this heat is too much for me. Can we take a break for 5 minutes?
Okay, so this happens in a real true way. I want to say in the morning.
Yep. Wow, what is that? Morning.
I'm saying it verbally, so you can just say. Starts with an M. Morning, in the car during the day.
Yep.
And then in the evening during debrief. So let's talk about that.
So this leads us to our next sub point, right? Which is sharing knowledge.
Yeah.
And this all ties together, you know, there's a bit of overlap here. But the sharing knowledge happens a lot during debrief where you're like, okay, so what is like the best way to approach this door? Maybe like you're an experienced ex-canvasser who's done this for 5 years and you're like, I've seen every conversation under the sun, right? Yeah. I have a response to everything that you might throw at me. And maybe your partner is like, I have social anxiety. I got up the courage to do this because it's the election year and I don't know what to say when someone throws a curveball at me, right? This is like where it's critical for community to come together to share knowledge so that like we can like, you know, build that skill among each other so we're a more effective force.
Yeah, and again, the team leads cannot do all of this. So This is also interesting because this is exactly what happened when we encountered the new kind of conservative voters
Right.
that first weekend. Is it took a lot of intentional sharing of knowledge in the cars, in debrief, where we said, here was what I learned about doing this, and here's what I think we should do the next day. And this will happen as the neighborhoods shift, as you're asked to go from from like swing voters one day to GOTV with voters who we know are going to vote our way the next day.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Community.
Community.
Do you want to go to the next one? Are we going to fit it in here?
Yeah, I think I messed up with where I placed this. It's just
You
like
put it really
smack
big.
dab in the center.
That's okay. Let's put number 2 like over here. That's fine.
Let's do 2 here and then 3 over there.
Okay.
Okay. Is this gonna fit?
Okay, it's okay.
That's
Number
okay,
2.
Okay. 2.
Let's go.
2. Okay. Partners. Ooh, this is actually really, really important. Okay. So you may have heard somewhere that Common Power is a nationwide organization, but we partner through local organizations and entities, right? So we seek out grassroots community organizations or state parties or even the campaigns itself
Right.
to partner with. We do all of our work through them. So what does that mean to actually just do all of the work through another organization?
What's the subword? I forget the
Okay.
subword.
It means that we're following their lead.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, which means that like they so we're following their lead because they have the voter data.
Mm-hmm.
They have previous contacts with these voters. They've been doing this work for much longer than we've been coming to that state,
Yeah.
right? And they've been working year after year after year on how to win in that state.
Yeah, I think that at a macro level, the reality of where we are politically is that this is the most money that's ever been poured into politics in a race. These are the most volunteers that have organically, surfaced everywhere around the country. These are the biggest field operations that we've ever fielded, and all of that is invested into these places on the ground. The swing states are the most active. The research, the polling, and everything. It's the most and highest and best that we've ever had. So that's why we follow their lead, because they will know on the ground. The people in Michigan know best the data from the doors, the tactics that they're using when they're talking to voters at doors, all the macro research that goes into that they're pulling from marketing data. They know better than we ever could.
Yeah.
Some small organization from Seattle or the average volunteer who's reading the New York Times and watching MSNBC or whatever, you're not going to know better than them. They've got more data inputs and more people with degrees who are studying
And
this
expertise.
stuff.
Yeah.
And expertise from even either a degree or lived experience on the ground.
Yeah.
That's why we follow their lead, because they know better than we do, and we do not assume that we know better because we do our external research.
So if someone asks you or just brings it up, right? It's like, why are we going to these neighborhoods? They seem really far away. Or why are we talking to these voters? They don't seem like the type of people that I want to be talking to or is effective or be willing to vote, right? Or questions around like, well, why are we walking it like this? Like, why do our neighborhoods and our turf look like this, right? The answer is because that's what our partner thinks is going to lead them to the goalpost.
Yeah. There's a lot of really, really deep research that goes into it, and so we have to trust them, even if we don't understand fully. I think that's the part that people
part
have,
of it, yeah.
is they have to trust something that's unknown. So
Yes.
if you're trusting us, trust our process. Here we go.
And here's why, right? It's because the people who came up with these strategies, who have invested how and where to put their energy, their resources, and their time, have a real skin in the game in a way that we don't, right? These are their consequences. If their strategies fail, if they send us to the wrong voters, if they looked at their data mistakenly, they have to live with that. Like if they lose an election, or if they win an election.
Yeah, literally, for the most part, and I know some folks fly in for this, but I mean, these are their careers if this is what they do for a living. But more than that, those organizations on the ground, either the state parties or the 501c4s who are working on the ground, they're the ones that have to live with the consequences. Most of us are going home, flying out of the state.
Yep.
So these are the people who, if it's a winning strategy or a losing one, if it's something that's going to work or not, they're the ones that get to have to live with the consequences. And so we should give them the respect of,
Yes.
of being the first one to tell us where they should go.
Exactly.
And then finally, the last piece of this is that this is our reputation. This is Common Power's reputation. And the reason why we get invited to come and work in a bunch of these states is because, one, they understand that we do this piece here. The reason why we have the volunteer force that we have, and we're going to have it next year, and we're going to have it the year after that, is because we treat our community this way. The reason why they love working with us is because we follow their lead. So, if nothing else, tell people that we are known for doing this thing and that it's our reputation online as an organization, as a community.
It's actually multi-layered to that too. You know, like if someone or if a low information volunteer is like, you know what, like I feel like I can just do this anywhere, or like I feel like I can just do whatever I want at doors, you know, it's like that kind of feeling. You can remind them that they're actually representing two organizations. On face value, they're representing our partner. This might be something that people forget sometimes, but when you're on the ground, you're representing Lucha in Arizona. You're representing the Nevada Democrats. You're representing the Pennsylvania Democrats, right? That carries a certain sense of like responsibility to how you carry yourself, but you're also a Common Power volunteer.
Yeah.
And that matters to our partners, how you show up.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Cool.
Let's go to number 3.
All right. I think we should.
Are we going to this way?
Yeah, let's go this one.
side?
Let's go this way.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you
Go ahead.
Is that this camera?
I got it. I'm doing it.
I was speaking
Trust.
to I was speaking to the wrong camera for like a solid 10 minutes.
It's okay. Sometimes it's cool to see somebody's from a side view.
I know,
You know
it was
what?
weird. Okay,
I
and
got
then
it. I got it.
what? All right. And then the last thing.
This
that
was
we'll
a really
touch on,
good video up until that point. I just wanted to call it out.
It wouldn't be
This is-
real without
this-
some mistakes.
This is what. This is what happens when we record at night. What time is it? 7 o'clock. Oh my gosh.
It's 7:15 now.
All right.
Okay.
So
all
number
right.
3 is the volunteer. All right.
You.
So community, the partners, and the volunteers, or you, or you, or
You?
those other people
One of you.
right here. All right. Okay. Bullet number 1. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. So, this is really, really important, okay? But not as important as the other two. But it's about language.
Yeah.
Okay, so how you talk about your work really influences the way that you see it and also how other people see it. So, I think everybody knows that this election is going to be an uphill battle, right? Everybody knows that like this election is like a tight wire. It's going to come down to the thinness of margins. Like you have been reading and seeing a bunch of like almost like very violent adjectives applied to this election. Like we're at battle, it's a battleground state, we're at war, the other side, you know, that kind of thing. And it's tough. That's true.
Yeah.
And
It's not that
it's
negative.
it's not just that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so one of the things that and this was shout out to Dee, one of our volunteers who kind of brought
Oh,
this
yeah.
verbiage to one of was it the panel that we did?
Yeah, it was actually a regional
It was
meeting.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So she was she went to Montana, which are some of the toughest doors
In the country.
that we did, right?
Yeah.
Those are doors where we're going up to known Trump voters and we're saying, yes, vote for Trump, but also vote for John Tester. It's very, very, very different from what we're used to.
Yeah.
And what she was talking about was instead of using the word hard or tough, we should be using the word important. And one way that we're going to modify that is that we're going to say, you should use both. You should knowingly go into a situation saying it is both tough or hard and also important, because it is the fact that they're hard doors that tells us how important they are, actually, strategically.
Yeah.
If they were easy doors, they wouldn't be important. They may feel good to you, right? And this is maybe a topic for another video, but it is common for those on the left to do something that's very easy so they can check that box and say,
Yeah.
I did my thing. And it is uncommon for us to actually go out and do what we're doing right now, which is to put yourself at risk and to risk your time
Exactly.
and spend your family time instead on talking to voters.
So about that, right? You've heard the term "every vote counts," But if you're a volunteer from a blue state or like a mildly safe state and going to a swing state, you know that a vote counts differently. So if you know that some votes are harder to get than others, then you should also know, logically, that you're going to have a harder time getting that vote yourself. Right? And when Charles is talking about like, well, what does that challenge present itself to be? Like, why is it rewarding? Why is it fulfilling when you actually get there, right? And that's because nothing worth having comes without risk, you know? And this comes up a lot in the field. How we distinguish between safety and comfort. And I would say that in my experience, this comes up like pretty organically in cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, like throughout the day, you know, you might be going
They'll drive up to a neighborhood and they'll see it and they'll be like,
nah,
I
don't know about that.
Yeah.
Like it could be dogs roaming around unleashed in
Right.
McAllen, Texas. It could be like houses that look like not as invested in neighborhoods in Detroit or Milwaukee. It could also be like suburbs where it's like Trump signs every other house.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever it is that's telling you your biases, your stereotypes that I might not be safe here, you know? Like that's very real and in your face and something that like comes up when your car is about to go out and say, how's everybody feeling about this? And the way that we talk about it is that if that's your immediate reaction and there's no clear signs of risk, check if you're just uncomfortable or if you're actually at risk, like if your actual safety is at risk.
Yeah, so what we find out is that people mix these two things up together, and if they feel uncomfortable because it's unusual, they say it feels unsafe. And we're not going to go and check everybody and say, hey, listen, we think you're not telling the truth about feeling unsafe, and then it's really about comfort.
Yeah.
But this is about a self-check.
Yes.
This is about, is it just unusual? Is it just different than you're used to?
Right.
Is it just, are you feeling tired right now because it's day 4, and you really just would like to go slower, or you need a break, or you need to,
or you want some familiarity.
Right,
you want easy neighborhoods to canvass, right?
So this is a self-check.
It's
I
a
love
self-check.
this. And this, you guys do a great job in the training,
Right.
actually talking about safety versus comfort.
I think this part here, it would be you as an informed volunteer, it would be a little bit hard to kind of like broach that topic with a low information volunteer. A good way to broach that is to say, why don't we just do a couple of houses? And then we can check in again about like how people are feeling, right? Or you can say, I've canvassed here before, like it's totally fine. I never felt unsafe, right? You can bring your own experiences into it, but as much as you can to distinguish like actual signs of risk, so like safety versus comfort is really good.
Yeah, Common Power goes for places that are uncomfortable. That is what we do. That's a part of our reputation. That is also how we are most effective.
And
is to go to the places where other volunteers won't go.
And the reason why all the volunteers don't go is how we don't have those voters.
So we don't have the voters. The last one is my favorite.
It's the quote that nobody gets right.
Yes. It is that we need you to be 100% comfortable. Wait, let me do this.
Oh, for real?
There we go.
Oh, there you go.
I need you to be 100% comfortable with 70% certainty. 100% comfortable with 70% certainty. Now, that's not about finding out exactly what 70% is. It's about being comfortable with not having complete certainty. And that's the interesting thing about this entire chart right here is if you just get that one right, then you won't feel like you need all the rest of these things. If most people enter into a Common Power experience and they let go of the need for complete certainty, what that means also is that they're letting go of complete control. It means that they are trusting the system that they're in, they're trusting the leaders that lead them, they're trusting the partners on the ground. And that takes care of a lot of things. So that's why that is kind of the overarching mindset piece that we talk about all the time. You added something to the whiteboard there.
I did.
Whoa,
Yeah,
look at that.
yeah.
Okay.
So We say this a lot. And if you don't go to our trainings, you might have heard this from another volunteer, some way or another. But I want to make it real concrete for y'all, okay? When we say it, we mean it.
Yeah.
Because politics change on a dime.
Yeah.
The voters that might make sense to contact one day could not be that case the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Data will come in, canvassers will come in, like new polls will come out. You know, a bunch of things can happen.
Our own performance.
There's
times where we knock on doors in a day where we're working with a partner that's heard about us maybe or not, and we'll do doors in a day, and they'll be like, oh my God, you guys knocked on so many doors that we actually are going to shift what you do tomorrow.
Yes.
Or we found that you're so effective with, certain voters or whatever that we've changed our tactics and we're going to move you.
Yes, or you put it so far ahead that like we're putting you in a neighborhood that we didn't even plan to do this until a week later.
Yeah.
That has happened multiple times.
It happened in Montana.
Exactly. So like when it's so true that like when we say uncertainty, we don't know what neighborhoods we're going to get when we get there. We don't know the types of voters that we're going to have. Wait, actually, let me take that back because we do have some knowledge. We are in constant communication with our partners, and like they do the best that they can.
What you're saying is that
like,
it could
we
change.
Can't guarantee.
There you go.
Yeah. We can't guarantee the neighborhood you go to. We can't guarantee the voters you talk to. We can't even guarantee that we know the neighborhood and the voter, the conversation you're going to get.
Yeah.
Because who's going to open the door, right? Not every voter you're trying to look for is the one that's going to show up at the door.
Yeah, and also to the point about like the partners and the data they have and stuff, in the same way that you see brand new polling come through from the New York Times or whatever, and you're like, oh my God, how does this change things? They're doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. They're getting brand new polling, and they're like, this changes things. And we're on a plane. We're on a plane flying to Pennsylvania, and they're like, this changes everything.
Yes.
We now need these people over here because there's new polling.
And that's why in your trip orientation packet, and if you don't know what that means, you need to check your inbox, that like we have an itinerary on paper. But that itinerary may not happen in real life because, dang, maybe tomorrow our tourists are 30 minutes farther than we expected and we have to move some stuff around. Or that like, oh my gosh, Tim Walz is coming to speak in Pennsylvania and we're going to make room to fit that into our schedule because it would be lovely to be at the rally that he's in.
Yeah. So the schedule, the neighborhoods we knock on doors, the conversations that we have at the doors, and the voters that we talk to could all change.
Okay. All right, we're going to wrap this up. But the point of this video, right, is for our volunteers, whoever's watching this, to spread the word, to pull a nugget out of this, to deliver an entire segment of this if you can. But imagine yourself, right? If this was a low information voter, they're not going to help themselves or each other without a little bit of help from someone who is informed and we can empower them to go on this journey.
Yes.
So that's the point of this video. Share it, forward it, review it, and we hope to see you all out there.
Take care of our low information volunteers. All right? Further together, y'all. We need everybody.
That's right.